Welcome to the Creative Commons RX podcast. Before diving into this episode, I want to ensure we're all on the same page. This is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient or pharmacist-patient relationship is formed. Using this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's risk. The content on this podcast is not intended to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Clinical experts created the references, content, and clinical insight. NotebookLM, a Google AI tool, created the audio content, which I extensively reviewed before release. Finally, the host states that he takes all conflicts of interest seriously. Currently, there are no conflicts to disclose. For all of his disclosures and the companies he invests in or advises, he directs users to reach out independently, where he keeps an up-to-date and active list of all disclosures.
Okay, picture this. You're heading in for a totally routine surgery, and then out of nowhere, your body just goes haywire. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? But for decades, this was a very real and very deadly medical mystery. Today, we're going to unravel the incredible story of malignant hyperthermia, a true surgical nightmare that, thankfully, has a triumphant ending. So before anyone knew what was going on or how to treat it, if this crisis hit you in the operating room, this was your chance of survival. Well, actually, your chance of dying. Over 80%. It was, no joke, one of the most terrifying complications in anesthesia because it could strike perfectly healthy people with absolutely no warning. You know, the way we cracked this mystery didn't start in some high-tech lab. It started with one family's unbelievable tragedy. We're talking 1960s Australia, and a young guy is about to have surgery. He tells his doctors, hey, just so you know, 10 of my relatives have died during surgery. And here's the crucial part, they actually listened to him. That one warning, that one moment of paying attention was what blew the whole case wide open and led to the discovery of a brand new medical condition. So what on earth was this mysterious killer? Well, the answer wasn't a contaminated tool or something wrong with the operating room. No, the culprit was hiding deep, deep inside the patient's own body, in their muscle cells. It was given the name malignant hyperthermia, or MH for short, and what it is a rare genetic disorder that's basically lying dormant until certain drugs wake it up. For people who have this inherited trait, some of the most common anesthetic drugs can trigger an absolutely catastrophic chain reaction in their muscles. The best way to get your head around this is to think of your muscle cells having a tiny on-off switch. That switch is basically a little calcium gate. Normally, the gate opens, calcium flows in, the muscle contracts. Then it closes, calcium stops, and the muscle relaxes. Simple. But in a person with MH, one of those trigger anesthetic drugs is like a key that breaks off in the lock, jamming that gate wide open. Calcium just floods into the cell, and the muscle gets stuck in the on position. It just can't relax. And the fallout from that one stuck gate is, well, it's total chaos for the body. With all those muscles firing nonstop, the body is thrown into what's called a hypermetabolic crisis. You get this intense muscle rigidity, you're producing massive amounts of CO2, and your body temperature skyrockets. You're literally cooking from the inside. Your energy stores get completely wiped out, your blood becomes dangerously acidic, and your muscles actually start to break down. It's a full system meltdown. For years, all doctors could do was pretty much watch in horror as this unfolded. There was no way to stop it. But just like the problem was uncovered by a family story, the solution was about to show up. A true hero in the form of a new drug. And you can really see the impact when you just look at the timeline. Back in the 60s, getting an MH diagnosis was pretty much a death sentence, over 80% mortality. Then, in 1975, researchers found a specific antidote, a drug called dantrolene. As soon as it was introduced, it completely changed the game. That mortality rate plummeted from over 80% to less than 10% today. I mean, talk about a revolutionary turnaround. So how does this miracle drug actually work? It's amazingly precise. Dantrolene goes straight to the source of the problem, that jammed open calcium gate in the muscle cell. It directly helps shut it down, which stops the flood of calcium right in its tracks and lets the body finally regain control. Okay, so now we have a life-saving drug. The challenge totally shifted. The new priority became, how do we spot this crisis the second it starts? Because in this situation, every single second counts. For an anesthesiologist today, it's all about recognizing these critical clues. And you know, the very first, most subtle sign is often a sudden, unexplained spike in the carbon dioxide the patient is breathing out. That's the first red flag. Then you'll see a racing heart, that muscle rigidity, especially in the jaw, and finally, the most famous sign, a dangerously fast climb in body temperature. The moment those signs appear, the whole atmosphere of the operating room changes. It instantly becomes a highly coordinated, high-stakes race against the clock to pull that patient back from the brink. And the response is a well-oiled machine. It follows a very clear protocol, and it happens fast. First, stop all the triggering drugs instantly. Second, call for help. Get that dedicated MH emergency cart in the room now. Third, you start hyperventilating the patient with 100% pure oxygen to flush everything out of their system. And fourth, you push that life-saving dantrolene. There is no room for error. It's all about speed and precision. And that race against time has actually gotten a whole lot faster, thanks to some really smart innovation. Just look at the difference between the old and new versions of the drug. The original dantrolene, you had to mix about 10 different vials with a bunch of water, shaking each one like crazy, just to get one adult dose. Imagine doing that in a crisis. The modern version, Ryanodex, puts that entire dose into a single vial that you can mix in just a few seconds. That innovation shaves precious life-or-death minutes off the response time. But the story doesn't really end in the OR. Because MH is genetic, the final piece of the puzzle is figuring out who carries this hidden risk, and more importantly, how they can live with it safely. So, how do you even find out if you have this? Well, there's a bit of a dilemma. The absolute gold standard test is a muscle biopsy. It's super accurate, but it's also invasive. It's a whole surgery in itself, and you can only get it done at a few specialized centers. The simpler alternative is a genetic blood test. If it comes back positive for a known mutation, great, you got your answer. But if it's negative, you're not totally in the clear because scientists still haven't identified every single gene that can cause it. When you look at the genetics we do know about, there's one major player. The huge majority of cases, up to 86%, are linked to mutations in a single gene called RYR1. And guess what? That's the exact gene that builds that little calcium gate we talked about earlier. A tiny percentage are linked to another gene, but for some people, the specific genetic cause is still a mystery. And this is really the best part of the whole story, the big takeaway. Once a person finds out they're susceptible to MH, surgery is no longer this terrifying gamble. With careful planning, and by simply using safe trigger-free anesthetic drugs, they can have surgery just as safely as anyone else. Knowledge has completely transformed a deadly killer into a totally manageable condition. Think about it. This entire journey, from an 80% death rate to safe, routine surgery, it all kicked off because a team of doctors actually stopped and listened to a patient's family history. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible, life-saving breakthroughs are just sitting there, hidden in the patterns of other family stories, just waiting for someone to listen and ask the right question?
This is for general informational purposes only and does not constitute the practice of medicine, nursing, or other professional healthcare services, including the giving of medical advice. No doctor-patient or pharmacist-patient relationship is formed. Using this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's risk. The content on this podcast is not intended to substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard or delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions. Clinical experts created the references, content, and clinical insight. NotebookLM, a Google AI tool, created the audio content, which I extensively reviewed before release. Finally, the host states that he takes all conflicts of interest seriously. Currently, there are no conflicts to disclose. For all of his disclosures and the companies he invests in or advises, he directs users to reach out independently, where he keeps an up-to-date and active list of all disclosures.